this video, I would like to demonstrate how to use the Syncplicity connector within an API Builder project. First of all, I have configured my API Builder to run on an HTTPS socket. For that, I have generated a local certificate and local key, and I have configured that in my configuration in my default JS. I've basically changed the base URL to be an HTTPS. I have disabled the port, the HTTP default port, and I have registered the SSL configuration. Of course, all this is documented in the API Builder documentation, and after that, my API Builder project is running on HTTPS on that port 8443. So with that, well, this is required because the API Builder, the Syncplicity is using OAuth, and for that OAuth stands only HTTPS connections are allowed. Then in order to use the Syncplicity API and using OAuth, you have to register an application on developersyncplicity.com. You have to register an application here. This is my API Builder application, Chris API Builder, and here I have my client IDs configured together with the redirect URL. So this is my locally running API Builder on that port, and this is where the authorization code should be sent back. So in order to use or to import the Syncplicity connector into my API Builder project, in a few versions, I have the possibility to use that plugins screen. For now, that Syncplicity connector is not listed here. And another requirement for API Builder is to have the independence version or higher. I will explain why this is necessary. And so far, the Syncplicity connector is not listed here. You go here and on github.com, and there is a dedicated repository which is API Builder Extras, and here you find the Syncplicity connector. And to install the Syncplicity connector, just execute that line. You do that by stopping my API Builder project and install the connector. And then I can restart my API Builder project again. And now what happened in the background is that the Syncplicity connector has been installed, and as OAuth is used, I have to provide credentials in order to authenticate against Syncplicity. And these are the credentials you get back from the developer syncplicity.com. And you have to configure that in the configuration section. There has been a file generated, which is Syncplicity default.js, and this is the relevant section. Here you find the client ID, and here you find the secret. Let me just take that over, and the client ID and the secret I do have. And also, Syncplicity is using OAuth in a way that the client ID and the client secret must be sent as a basic auth header, and that's why I need to say basic auth, and that should be true. This is what I have to add as well to the configuration. Let me save that. And now you see that this has been changed from red, having no configuration at all, to orange or to yellow. And now I have to authorize. So that means I'm now performing the OAuth stance. I have to grant access to my API Builder project to have access on my behalf on the API, on the Syncplicity APIs. So I now do have the required token. I have an access token and I have a refresh token, and the API Builder in the background is now maintaining that access token by getting regularly a new access token using the refresh token. And now let's go into an API you would like to use the Syncplicity functionality. And for that, you go into, in my case, I just go into the greeting API, and here you find now the Syncplicity connector. And in order to use that, I just say, give me all the machines. That's machines get, I think, machines get. Then I have to configure, let's say, the credentials. The Syncplicity OAuth 2 credentials should be used, and that's all I'm doing right now. And now I can wire that up, and the output is written to response, and that response should be set into, let's say, or not into the context. That should be reflected. Let's say it like that. and the status code maybe should be 200, and the body we would like to send back is the response, and we can remove, let's say, all the other stuff. Okay, it's not very useful what I'm doing here in terms of functionality, but it showcases that the Syncplicity API can be used. And when I'm firing that up, that flow now, I have to provide anything, but just because of that API, now Syncplicity is talked to, and now you see, let's say, the machines has been returned from Syncplicity. And that way you can do more with the Syncplicity connector.